And welcome back to part 38 of Final Fantasy XII, where today it's all about them hunts. Yeah, admittedly this video might not necessarily be the most interesting in the project. It's all about hunt cleanup. We've got about half a dozen to go through, including Death Gaze over here, where if you head over to the aerodrome, there is a boy you can find around the area talking to his parents that you can speak to learn about Death Gaze. This is the boy in question. The boy is actually in every single aerodrome. Whichever aerodrome you're in, he will be around. So it's not a specific area per se, it's just this is the closest to us, so it works out. The idea of this one in actuality is it's actually a dare between him and his parents, or a bet, because he's convinced he's seen one whilst his parents are convinced he hasn't. So he's made a wager, saying if we can find the Death Gaze, I win. If not, mother wins. Their mother wins. Also, the parents are literally, their names are literally mother and father. If the mother wins, the kids will give them 100 chocobos. If the kid wins, the mother will get him an airship. But of course, this is a hunt, so we have to actually find and kill the thing, so the kid's about to win. What's interesting about this is that every time you hop on a leisure airship cruise, there is a chance Death Gaze will appear on the ship. However, if it doesn't appear, take the journey to its end, and at the next aerodrome, speak to the kid again. Every single time you talk to the kid after being on the airship, it doubles the chances. So even though it's only like a 1% chance at first, the next time you do it's 2, then it's 4, then it's 8, then it's 16. Like, you'll get it pretty quickly if not. The next one is over by this kid here, the Diabolus. Diabolus is a pain in the up. Pretty much all the hunts that we are doing today can be pretty brutal. Well, I say that as we go on to the only one that isn't that bad. The wild Marlboro here really isn't too tough. It's more that there's just a swarm of smaller ones with it, but the main one isn't that bad. Carrot is worse. And Carrot is, you know, we fought a long time ago now. But this is essentially this whole video. We do have one more bonus video before we're back to the main plot, and that is covering a super boss, which will hopefully be more interesting. Because I am aware that all these side questing stuff, it can only be so interesting to watch. If you're following along, I absolutely recommend still going along with this and taking each path you need to. It's just, this is where the meat of the game starts to show its face, is that it is side quest heavy. There is a lot of optional stuff to do, the hunts being the biggest chunk of it. Yeah, we'll kill your enemy, your monster. In the XII Caverns lurks a demon, the Diabolus, or Diabolus, which is an excuse to revisit the XII Caverns anyway, to try and see if we can get any of the any remaining loot I missed because of the room of the enemies at like level 90. You see me double check to see where it is on the map, and it's like right in the secret area of the caverns where you have to go to the save crystal and behind the sandfall. But this is how it works. To get on an airship, you go to any of the ladies around here, and there is by leisure craft and by private cabin. If you go by private cabin, it will warp you straight to whatever destination. If you go by leisure craft, you will ride there slowly. You see me skip the cutscene because it's not worth it. It's just a tiny 5-second scene of the airship flying up and going away. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome you aboard the behalf of the East Ivelisse Quartershire. Blah 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 blah. Feel free to look around. Kupo, oh, miss. I've shopped taken to the sky, and now I'd like to rest in a cabin, Kupo. I've not had any luck in finding one. You mean rest until we arrived? The cabins are right this way, through the Sky Saloon. Give your name to the chief steward, and she'll give you your room. This is just so you know how to end this section, because the airship will essentially take an indefinite amount of time to get to its destination. You instead just go to your cabin and rest, and it will finish the journey. But it's got a basic shop in here. But outside of the Death Gaze hunt and a optional side quest involving letters, which I show a bit of, but I don't do the whole thing. It's just I do as much as I stumble into. But here's your basic wares you can buy. You can buy teleport stone and Gashal greens. The biggest reason you'll find yourself here is if you go up to the air deck. I've talked about it a dozen times. The invisible weapons. The very first one can be got on this deck. The invisible treasure chest has a minuscule chance to spawn in. And on top of that, it also has a minuscule chance to hold the weapon. And heaven forbid, I got it on my very first time, but it wasn't the weapon. I got the invisible chest to appear, and I was at least happy that I got to show off that there's the invisible chest, so you know what you're looking for. But the invisible chest is only like a 1 in 50 chance of it even appearing, and then beyond than that, it's a 1 in 100 chance of that actual chest holding the weapon. You can boost your chances of the chest holding the weapon a little bit if you are equipped with the diamond armlet, because that boosts rare item chances. But it's still not good. It's still, I think it boosts it to like 6%, which still isn't brilliant. It's like a 1 to 50 plus 6%. Like, it's gonna be a while. Without RNG manipulation, you're not getting it anytime soon. You're more likely to get a shiny than you are to actually get what you need. But if you talk to this lady, you can ask about, well, who is this Rod? And there's this gentleman essentially being a very obnoxious flirt, thinking that his status and power is enough. See, how can you decline a proposal of marriage from a man of my birth and stature? He's a prick, essentially. And instead of knocking him out, we're going to play a game with him to prove that he's inferior. But I never finished a side quest because he's the slowest man alive anyway. So it doesn't matter how long you take to do the side quest, you'll still beat him. Yeah, you and your brothers are amongst the most vulgar men I've ever met. And I've known many vulgars. Now, I'll get you back to it, so if you kindly take your leave, I have a proper passenger to attend to. Yes, your passengers. An idea comes to mind. Might I interest you in a game of sorts? What manner of game? Last year, for your mother's name, day and your younger sisters, blah blah blah, what of it? This year I propose that each gather a flower for your mother, and on this boy here informs everyone. If you can deliver the message to every one of them, my brothers and I will abandon their hopes. Absurd. You expect a perfect stranger to willingly go to Airship? She has a point. 6 ships, 6 sisters. Quite a lot of work for someone, blah blah blah. Essentially the idea is that you go to 6 different airship travels across the different areas of the map and speak to each of the sisters with this letter to inform them of the game, so all of them get involved. And I did actually genuinely make an honest effort to try, but I forgot, or at least lost my way with what order it was, so I think I just ended up stumbling into the same ones repeatedly, so I never found all of them. Which is a tad annoying, but I suppose what can you do? But that ends the airship visits. If you go speak to the steward there, you can go to your cabin and it will end your trip then and there. And you see that now we're in Arcadia. And it'll do another little miniature cutscene that I skipped. But Death Gaze didn't appear. So if we look around for that kid again and talk to him, it will boost the chances for next time. Which is what this is here. Here's the kid. Talk to him, you'll say, oh, they still don't believe you? Oh, well, you've got to try and find it. You've really got to try. Now its chances of appearing has been bolstered slightly. It's not a brilliant extension, but it's enough that, like I said, it will stack up until eventually you'll definitely get it. So pick another journey. So I go the port of Balfamheim, because it's close enough. Also, we are in a position now, or if you're following along, you should at least be in a position now to have a decent amount of money on you. But this is me showing off what I mean by private cabin. If you go by private cabin, you just immediately warp there. See? But after not 1, not 2, but 3 visits going for it, I eventually got enough times round for the Death Gaze to appear. Any adventurers on board? Death Gaze is attacking the ship. If you click to hide, someone will go out and die trying to get the thing to go away. I kid you not. Like, they don't even be subtle about it. It's like, because you're cowardice, someone will just get murdered for it. But it does give you the opportunity to actually prepare yourself before you go up. Death Gaze is one of the more difficult ones in the game. Like I said, none of them are brilliant from this point onwards in terms of just being a breeze or something that you can get through. But if you talk to people around, they'll have some basic things to say because it freaks out. Because they kind of treat this like a miniature event. But when you're ready, do press up to the air deck and we can start our fight with Death Gaze. And you can see I'm not putting any punches to this son of a bitch. The main reason being, this is one of the hunts I never did on my blind playthrough. But when you push up here, this guy is waiting for you. The main thing with Death Gaze is that he starts the fight completely immune to all physical attacks. So when you first start it, the only thing that will be hurting him is Scathe. If you have reverse, you can end this fight in 2 actions. Which we do, we just don't have the other spell you need, which is Renew. If you cast reverse on him, he will take it. He will allow himself to be hit by reverse. He won't like be immune to it or hide it away or anything like that. Meaning that healing will hurt him and hurting will heal. Immediately follow up with Renew, it will reduce his HP to 1. Then any use of a potion or cure or anything of the sort will kill him. And the reason why he's not immune to it is because he will actually cast it on himself after fully healing himself partway into the fight to try and make it add to the gimmick. But as you can see, right this second, he is no threat. I buffed everyone whilst outside of the town, which is why everyone started with some basic things to give us a better start, essentially, a better starting chance. Whilst you're waiting for its physical immunity to drop, it might be worth to put Shear on someone. Or at this point, you can see I'm going through spells, picking my poisons, essentially. Bone Crusher will never connect, so I've never seen Bone Crusher connect on anything, even not the most basic bitch enemy. I've never seen it connect, so I just never bother with that. What am I doing? Am I getting rid of Shear already? Oh, this must have been like I said before I actually knew. Either that or it's immune to it, which is a chance. I wasn't paying that much attention. We do have a reverse moat, and you see I do debate it. I just have no way of doing anything with it right now. So I just kind of cheap out by using a Knot of Rust, which I think it's also immune to. Yeah, it is. Like I said, past me is just delaying the inevitable. If you give it enough time, its physical immunity will pass. Oh, I know what I've done here. What was I doing here? I thought I had turned off Gambits or Barsh just so then I could take manual control and just do little things and pay attention to the stats. Because sometimes it is better to backseat yourself like that, just switch off and move away. Because Death Gaze won't really target you if you're not doing anything. Nothing in the game will. But at this point is when you get to the second part of the fight. It will restore a significant chunk of its health and then cast reverse on itself, but it is no longer immune to physical damage. So you can wail on it, you just need to be careful. So you can see I set everyone back to basic, completely forgetting that it's about to cast reverse on itself. Also, I'm not sure what killed Barshan in there. Like, I know this thing has instant kills, but it didn't look like it used it. Now it's about to cast reverse. Now reverse is in play. Remember, any physical attack you do to it will only heal it, whilst any healing action you do will hurt it. So, if you press the bumpers, you can now target Death Gaze with it, and I use that to hurt him quite regularly, but I have everyone's Gambit turned off from this point onwards. Until it passes, because reverse only lasts a set amount of time. Reverse is a temporary status condition, because you can use it on yourself. If you could use it on yourself and it lasted the rest of the fight, it would break the game in two, because no enemy would think to use healing magic on you. It would destroy any difficulty. But now, as you're seeing here, I'm going into it and changing the targets to foe for healing. Just until either the reverse passes or it dies, essentially. Now it's just a matter of making sure to pay attention as I turn on a couple Gambits. The thing has Scourge as well, which you need to be wary of, because that's heavy non-elementals at everyone and can leave you as sap. I don't know if First Aid will work on it. You can only use it on your own party anyway, it doesn't matter. First Aid only heals in critical, so I don't know if it would have worked on Death Gaze, even if it would have let you target. But now the reverse has passed, and I needed to notice a lot sooner than I did. But I'm just sitting on it like, oh, it'll be fine. But it's passed. Have I realised yet? Oh no, I go to do a test attack. Have I? Like the symbol's gone. I've noticed. Yep, there we go. It took me a while. Let's sort all this out again. Back down to the bottom. Back for my end of fight top up. Eventually I get rid of the end of fight top ups. It's just nice to have. But whilst it's not being that much of a problem, it's just nice to have sort of thing. It's also made itself immune to magic now, so it is rotated to its third new gimmick, but this one's the easiest because you're just wailing on it anyway. That finally ending Death Gaze. Probably the most peculiar hunt you're likely to do because of its different gimmicks and how it shifts around constantly. But thankfully we saved the day, so no one of them are in trouble, and since they have our thanks, all of you welcome aboard. Yeah, you're welcome. The least they could do is like make our trip free, but no, they don't reward you at all. The only reward you're getting is speaking with the kid again. You did it, you killed Death Gaze, see mother, I told you. No one likes a close-up, but I did lose, promise to promise I'll buy you that airship. It was fun though. An airship of my own. Buy me an airship when we get home, father. See, mother and father refer to each other as mother and father. Like, it's such a weird thing. It's like their names are literally mother and father. It's ridiculous. But they're also going to be flat broke by the end of this. I don't care how much money they got. 100 chocobos and an airship is going to be expensive. But we get 3,400 gil and a few elixirs for our trouble, because that was all really worth it. Yeah, when you speak to the kid, he never actually thought the Death Gaze was there anyway. He just didn't want to be proven wrong by his parents. Cheeky git. Next, back in the Lucian mines, because we were heading back here anyway, is Diabolus. Or Diabolus. This guy's probably more of a threat than Death Gaze to me, because, well, you just saw why. It just hits us with everything. It is another status condition monster, and they're never fun to deal with. Especially because these ones have confused as well, so they will just stop you dead in your tracks quite often. And I tried to get some kind of remedy on Ash first as top priority, because Ash can clean up everyone else with her remedy laws, but it's never that easy, unfortunately. Eventually I set remedy to a gambit for Ash and just put it onto just everything instead of just some things, which is because at first I make it so it's only like if an enemy's confused, if a teammate's confused, use it. But eventually I just make it so if it's any status condition, unless someone else has got it, she will take precedence and use a remedy. But Diabolus here, or Diabolus, how would you pronounce it? I want to say Diabolus. Either way, like you said, we just finally got it off once, and it just did it to the whole party again. At this point, I'm like, for fuck's sake! Like, you see me pause for a long while there because like, some of these hunts in the late game really start to run out of steam, in my opinion. Like, they're great, but you lose care. That you just burn out of them after a while. Yeah, remedy on everyone. Well, after we pick up Mr. 1 HP. Don't know why they bothered, he's only got 1 HP. Only bring back a teammate that's got disease on them if you've got a way of dealing with the disease immediately afterwards. Otherwise, they're just gonna die again. They only have 1 HP. Literally breathing on them wrong would be enough to kill them. This thing also has Pyromania, which is essentially Fire Auger. Like, it's a heavy fire attack, but it will hit everyone. Before, you know, it goes back to readying Curse, because heaven forbid it be's nice. The only saving grace on this one is that Ash was far enough away for it to not count. Not that it's about to matter, because the two knights are about to wail her to death. Look at them. At this point I'm like, oh shit. get this off, everyone. And it does it again. Seriously, this is probably one of the more frustrating fights in the lot. Like, if there's ever a fight where I should say just fuck everything and throw quickening, this is the fight. Just use a quickening and get it done soon as. This thing doesn't have much health, it's just it spams Curse so goddamn much that it's infuriating. And it's another enemy that decides it's fun to make itself immune to physical attacks partway through. Like, it gets a little redundant. What's my plan here? Am I just trying to kill the thing? No, I'm trying to get rid of disease. Stop people from having minuscule health. Unless you're Barsh, of course. Barsh is doing alright. He always does alright. Look at his health. Still got 8,600 of that son of a bitch, even with the poison. Do I just scave it again? Yeah. Everything takes a scave. There's no excuse to not have it at this point. Then it hits everyone with confused again. So I'm sorry, I know I'm sounding frustrated, even though it's old footage I recorded ages ago, but it's frustrating to even look at. I don't like this fight at all. This fight just fucking sucks. Like, you just want this thing to die, and it just keeps on spamming the same shit that just delays the fight forever. And then it'll probably end up winning if you're really unlucky, just because of this bullshit. There we go. And you only get 27 license points. It's not worth it. Going for 100% in this game is like the most not worth it thing in this. But we got a few states conditions to clean up before, and then I move on to our next target, which is the Wild Marlboro. Like I said, this one's not as bad as the Cavern. It's probably the only one that's reasonable of this collection of new ones that you would have got. It is buffed on first encounter and does have some extras with it that you'll want to deal with first. But it is not, despite the fact it's a Marlboro, you know, the enemies are infamous for being status effect monsters. Nowhere near as bad as the Diabolus we just fought. This thing really isn't that bad. It's annoying when it has its moments, but it's nowhere near as bad. Besides, the thing's pretty much already dead. Well, it did just heal itself, but you're seeing how much we're doing to it. It didn't last long. Its best attempts didn't last long, even if it made itself immune to physical damage again, because, you know, it's annoying. Like, it's a fun gimmick at first, but it's so uncreative when suddenly everything will have randomly make itself immune to physical attacks. And it's like, why can't we get that skill? That would be cool to mess around with. Have a skill that maybe only sometimes connects, or can only use once every now and then, but it makes you immune to physical attacks, or makes you immune to magic. The next one is all the way back down in Guravegan, just before you cross the path to the crystal. If you go opposite it, you will find a Pisca Demon over here. To be honest, the Pisca Demon isn't too bad. The only thing that's annoying is just the journey all the way over to it, because there's no orange crystals in Guravegan outside of the entrance. Like, you go to the entrance, you have to go all the way Guravegan just to take down this one Pisca Demon, and then backtrack all the way back out of it the other way. And the mystical music is only interesting for so long. Next is the one back in the Xertan Cavern. The first thing I do is run back into the murder room where the enemies are at level 99 to pick up this, so we can finally have the map of the cavern, because that's like the only real loot we miss before I U-turn and try and get the fuck back out of here, because I think I at least target one of these two for at least a second. Oh no, because Barsh died, he lost Libra, but one of them is level 90 and one of them is level like 88. So it is, even at our current level, it is not wise to linger around. Like I said, those enemies, their level range is like the widest in the game. They can be as weak as level 50, or like that one's level 59, that one's 94. Like, come on. Like, what the fuck is this madness? Like, their level range could be anywhere from like 50 to 99. And it always feels like you get one low, one high. Like, you'll get one that's vaguely reasonable and one that's idiotic. But there's nothing we can do here right now. Like, you see me, I'm desperately trying to just get some distance to loot everything out and then get out of here. So I've at least shown off this particular room. But it's just so brutal. The enemies are way too strong. So after showing that off, I cut back to the crystal to show off what I mean. Behind the sandfall here, if you follow the cliff edge around, you'll find a gap in the cavern. I've shown this all off before. It leads to worthless loot, but it's just because it's out of the way and we're here now for a reason that I quickly showed it off again just to be safe. You'll actually have company for this one, so it's not too bad, but just for the sake of safety, I'd also recommend casting Float, which is what I do eventually. Also, nice. Just because although there isn't that many traps around here, you don't really want to be dealing with it and an enemy. And it's in time magic past me, thank you. And it will also hit your extra ally. I've got Ash to automatically pick up if an enemy has reflect on them, she'll automatically use Dispel. That's how I've handled it now. Just because usually it's only enemies I plan on killing anyway that will have reflect on them. Like if it wants to cast Protect on it, I can do it manually from there if I care. But just getting rid of reflect should always be a good priority. But this guy, that's the main gimmick of this hunt in particular, is that it will constantly try and boost itself, and then once it's fully boosted, it will swing at you and it'll hurt. But I think after this one that we've only got one left in our hunt cleanup for now, because all the rest we can't get until after the Pharaoh's tomb, or the Pharaoh's tower even. But it depends what one's the next one I cut to. Yes, this is the last one. The hardest and normal hunt in the game is the one called Fafnir. Fafnir will not appear unless a heavy blizzard is going on in the Paramount Rift, so you have to leave and re-enter constantly until you get it. Fafnir doesn't pull any punches, but doesn't really have any bullshit gimmicks either. Like, well, not that off the top of my head I can't really think of any. It just hits like a goddamn truck. So if you're struggling, your best bet might be to come back later, not just when you're a higher level, but when you have the other two stat lowering based techniques. So you can lower its physical attack to, I think it's like you can lower it by 40%. I think it stacks to, so you can make it so it hurts you a lot less, so you can make it far more manageable. Because this ends up being a bit of a mission to kill this thing. Because I'm approaching it, I wouldn't necessarily say under leveled, because I feel like even if you're a healthy level, this thing is just, its stats are just really high physical damage, so it'll hurt anyway. Which is what makes it so tough, and why there's a trophy for your troubles if you do it, and why you get a mark in the Sky Den. It's just, this is one of those fights where you kind of got to buckle up for. If you're playing the original Final Fantasy XII, I feel for you, because your damage cap is 9,999. And like I said, I keep saying, everything is harder in the original 12 because you have access to the full board. So how long it takes to kill this thing takes even longer. And it's like almost every optional fight we'll be doing from this point onwards, you can start to really feel how beefy everything's health bar is. Like in the main game it's not so bad still, but in optional content, almost everything we'll be fighting moving onwards, you're gonna hit them and the bar doesn't feel like it's moving as much as it should. Even when the game says you've done like 12,000 damage, and you really feel like it should have hurt more than it does, it just doesn't do much. This thing every now and then will try and cast sleep so it can get away with an easy kill on someone, or it will try and silence you to make your healers less effective. But I've got Echo Herbs on Barsh to try and reduce the effort a little bit, and you see I even start casting Shear to try and reduce its magic defense more and more, just so then the magic users can hurt it more. Or Exposed, so then when we whack it, it can hurt it more. Just anything to try and speed this up. Also, you might have just saw there when we got our full revive from Redis's Arise. Just in case there was any doubt, Barsh does absolutely have more than 9,999 health. When he got revived by the Arise, it said 10,000 and like 500, I think. But we are getting there. Once you finally start getting into a pattern, it's not too bad. It's just finding that pattern because Fafnir is so strong. And what doesn't help is that when it's nearly dead, it does, like most hunts in the game, start hitting just that little bit harder as like a last ditch effort. It also weirdly will turn around and show its back to you every now and then, which I have no idea like what that's about. It will just do it sometimes. The only saving grace is because this guy's big, it takes a while for it to turn around because it has to be facing who it's targeting. It has the odd attack where it will turn on a snap, but most of its attacks it wants to do, as you saw there, it had to turn around and face. Which is why I've got Barsh on the opposite end whilst everyone else is attacking from the same side, in the hopes that I can convince it to at least target Barsh more often, so then that my mages can just crack on with whatever they're doing. Because positioning is something that you always need to keep in consideration for big slow enemies like this, that if they're going to take their time to turn around before they can even attack, then you need to make the most of it. I wasted an elixir just to give Barsh enough of a push to power through. Because the problem with moving Barsh away is I'm also moving him far away to an extent where he can't be healed. Which is the main reason why he died there. But at this point I'm getting desperate because I'm like, look, this thing is so nearly dead. I just need to get it done. It's had its like health critical buff. For some reason Balthier was just standing around there. I'm guessing he just used the Phoenix down so it was on the cooldown time. But it's... For some reason this like guy starts getting passively using stop, but I don't know if he always had it and I just got lucky until right this point or what, but it became very frustrating, so I was like, no, come on, this thing just needs to die, and it's just kicking our ass at the last second. I was half tempted to use quickenings at this last gasp just to try and finish it, but I was like, no, I've come this far. With enemies with far larger health pools like these optional hunts, you'll find quickening stop to become just time wasters. Because what's the point in wasting 3 minutes to only do 10,000 when you can hit 10,000 in one strike? But for killing this thing, you get the Ring of the Light, or Ring of the Light, and you will get a trophy for your trouble, as I've mentioned before, or achievement if you're playing on Xbox. And huzzah, we've done all the hunts, so it's now just a matter of turning them all in. The first one I turn in is actually the last one we did. I turn in Fafnir, because there's a little cutscene here, because I actually talked about this character a little while, this Relge, that she didn't care for the people who were here because they thought they were all cowards, but by doing this side quest you help her get a much better understanding of why the Humes stayed away from everyone else here and why they tried to keep away from the war. Many times I was betrayed, disappointed, wounded, and when I last came to Ivelisse I found only weak Humes clinging to their gods. Only now do I realise it's because they are weak that the Humes support one another. They accept, forgive, aid, and will fight to the death to protect their own. This is their strength, and thus do the humans prosper. I thank you, Hume Traveller. With your retrieval of Leia's ring, you have answered the questions that sent me from my home. I wander Ivelisse no more. I will remain here in this place and honour the memory of Leia, who died to protect the mountain he loved. And we get assassin arrows and a teleport stone. What? This still isn't the last time we'll be returning to Ivelisse, so you've got a few other hunts that we'll be picking up and a few rewards that we'll be getting later on that will also require us to return here. But Ivelisse is one of the places that you wouldn't think you'd be returning to as often, but you end up actually coming back here a lot. But we got the Pisca demon we can turn in whilst we're here, which is why I'm running around, so I'm trying to remember which dude it was. I'm like, is it you? So you saved the soul of my brother. Here it is. We get the dark shot and another scave mote. You know, the scave mote we got that in the secret area of the room of the Wraithfall tomb feels less and less significant the more of these we find. Like, I really feel they should have given you a more substantial reward down there than just a scave mote, because it's great for that moment, but it really burns out. For the hellish pain in the arse that was the Diabolus, we get a cool shield and the Zeus mace. And these kids would be like, wow, you did it, yay, we can now go play in that murder hole. And this kid will just turn around and walk, but if you look at the texture, there's no door there. Also, the kids just fucking vanish because, yeah, why not? There's no door there, it's just the wall. They just ran into a wall and phased out of existence. The Zeus mace isn't as strong as what you can find in the Lusu mines, because of course it isn't, but the demon shield is interesting. Reduces your magic evade, but the amount it boosts your base evasion, kinda tempting. And you also absorb dark magic. And you can see I do tempt it. I've become very tempted. I eventually give in and give it to Ash because absorb dark is kinda brilliant. Next is the wild Marlboro was defeated, so we need to turn that in to get a sextant. And you know what that means? It means it's never getting used, because I don't like that weapon type, because they always seem worthless to me. I talked to the wrong guy first again, but we got the Classeropus to turn in. Thank you for phone from my side. Allow me to tell you a tale. Warrior of the village, my brother, war chief in the days. He was a great warrior, but he died fighting the Catapulpus, and he was unable to withstand the attack, but he protected everyone for it. His leg is beyond healing. My brother threw down his sword to that day. It was punishment, you see, or so I thought at the time. I threw my spirits into making myself a warrior in preparation to defeat it, but now I know I was mistaken. I believe I was fighting for my brother, for his honour. It was a challenge to beast today that I realised it, so thank you. And we get the volcano bomb and an arctic wind. Neither of them particularly special. The very last thing I want to talk about before we go is why this footage is kind of sped up and I'm running around. When you've got Redis in your party, the area just outside of Jahara, this zone here, the chocobos have a very tiny chance of spawning a rare variant. And it only happens if Redis is in the party. It is literally called the level 99 red chocobo. The level 99 red chocobo, although it's level 99 as the name suggests, isn't actually that tough. If you can kill it, you will get a ribbon for your troubles. Every time. And you can spawn it constantly. It's a tiny chance of appearing. This is the pattern. You move down, you kill all the chocobos, you leave the next zone, go back into here. So you're going 2 screens away so all the spawns in here reset. And you're looping it constantly in the hopes that it spawns. I don't get it, so alas I don't get a ribbon, but if you want immunity to all status conditions on a piece of equipment, this is your best bet. There are other ways of getting ribbons, but that's just your easiest. Last little thing to show is that this is indeed a shortcut with the chocobo, but that said, next time on Final Fantasy XII we got a super boss to take on, so until then, you guys take care now.